This series over here
Yes.
is called Museum of, and there are about 25 works in that series in oil, and all of the works are on this little pedestal type thing, and there are landscape backgrounds and sky backgrounds in each of them. So I've divided them up.
The metal again reflected, but now we're introducing fruit.
Fruit, yes, yeah. So they have a number of different meanings and feelings. Some of them are very warm tones, some of them become cooler tones. And I just brought one to show as an example.
What about this one here? Is this another?
This is another one from that series. It's a bigger one. Most of them were all that size, but this is a larger piece and carries through the same idea.
Okay. Now this is an oil painting.
Yes, it is.
Do you set up those objects in your studio?
I do. Yes.
And then what did you do first? I mean, you're a teacher. We want to learn how to.
Well, I draw it on with very loose turpentine first, so that I can get my drawing. Just
So
to
you're
get a
using
little
umber or sienna or some ochre?
whatever color. Yeah,
Okay.
that doesn't make any difference because it's going to be covered up at the end. But it's a tone dark enough that I can see it, you know.
So have you
and I keep it light.
pre-planned the whole composition, the
Pretty much. I've
background
done
and all that?
drawings.
You've done some
Yeah, I do a
preliminary
lot of
drawings?
sketching before I start on
Okay.
something to just kind of get a general idea of where I want to go. And then I get my objects in, and then I begin the process of painting it and building layer upon layer of paint. With oil paint, you know, you can do glazings and all kinds of wonderful techniques. I've attempted doing, what's the other one?
Acrylics?
Acrylics. Yes, I can't even remember the word because I hated it so much.
Well, I'm an oil painter too, and I don't know why so many artists today are working in acrylics.
I don't know either.
I don't see any advantage.
Well,
Oh,
the
yes,
adva-
occasionally it dries a little faster and you
Yeah.
can move on, but
Right, and it's
but there's
also
no wet-on-wet blending.
Right. There's no toxicity with acrylic. With oil paint, it's a little more dangerous.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
we're not eating them.
No, but we're breathing the fumes, so that's
Well.
probably as bad.
I think it's bad an artist that lives in one studio, eats, sleeps in his studio, but
True.
most of us don't
Yeah,
have
that's
to do
true.
that.
So anyway,
I mean, most of the oil painters live to a ripe old age.
they did, yes, but they also had great ventilation. You know, they were in olden days. They didn't have heat in the windows like we have, and whatever. So there was a lot of
Keep your fans going.
keep the fans going. Exactly. That's just what they
All
wanted.
right,
them
so you
to
did
do.
an underpainting and then you're glazing.
Yes, and then I start with thicker paint, and as the paint is drying, and after it's dried, you know, I work with a layer of glazing.
So are
and then
you
go back
using a
in.
glazing medium?
I just use the media that I use to paint with as my
I
glazing
see.
medium. I used Amar varnish and linseed oil and turpentine in equal parts, and I use that to paint with and to paint.
Now these seem to have a much more modern look, even
think
though
so.
they're realistic.
Right.
How did you achieve that?
In my sketchbook. I just was looking for some ideas and just sketched them out, and I have a lot of sketchbooks, and most of them just get ignored. You know, you put down your things, your thoughts, and little doodles, and nothing comes of them, and then occasionally you go back to them a year, 5 years later, and you go, you know, that could work in something.
Okay, so now this also has a mood to it, but you're not thinking in those terms? Are you
Not when I'm
consciously
starting.
creating any feeling? Or
Not when I start. When I start, I just am doing the objects and the fruit and the backgrounds. But then as I start going through it, I start feeling maybe a more ethereal type feeling, like I'm looking at that fruit over there with the silver cup, and there is a more of an ethereal sky, or adding something that maybe I wouldn't have put in
so
on the first go-round.
you're kind of interacting with the painting, with all this preliminary planning, you're still moving along with
Right. Yes. Yeah. There's changes in there. You know, sometimes I'll get something in there that really looks great, and then I come back a few days later and just it's not working. So I erase, you paint over. It's erasing, but and try to get it to be more of what I want to